Hey guys, how's it going? This is Nate English from EnglishEndurance.com, and today I just wanted to talk a little bit about what it's like to get back into training after taking a break, either because you were sick or you're traveling or you're injured or something like that. I think this is something that all of us deal with at some point in time, whether we're coming back after an off-season break or maybe we got injured and we're just getting back into it after maybe a month or 2 months of healing from a broken bone or something like that. It's a challenging time for a lot of athletes when they're getting back into it because, as you were training, maybe before you had that break, you had certain sensations, and if you had a power meter, you had certain power numbers that you were used to seeing, and having certain feelings when you go out and do like a 1 hour or 2 hour training session or a 5 hour ride, for example. If you go out and try to do even remotely the same thing, it feels terrible at first. And I think that can be psychologically challenging for a lot of people. And it's also difficult sometimes to gauge how to best progress as you're just getting back into it if you've had an extended time away from regular training. So I just wanted to offer a few thoughts on that and hopefully enable you to feel better and more confident about your training choices as you're getting back into training after a moderate to extended layoff. So even if you just take a brief break from regular training, and let's say you were traveling for a week or two on vacation with your family or something like that, or you got sick and you had a week off of regular training and didn't do any activity during that time, that will affect a number of things. I mean, over that period of let's say a week, you will lose some fitness, the enzyme density in your muscles will go down a little bit, your mitochondria won't be as capable of doing as much metabolism as they had before they were before the layoff. But that is not much of a big drop over the course of a week. Maybe after 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, it drops off a lot more. But over a week, you might see a big reduction in power or your pace running or your time up various climbs. But a lot of that, at least initially, is probably due to the reduction in blood volume that you have because you haven't been training for a week or so, and you haven't been sweating a lot, and so your body hasn't had the stress that tells it that it needs to retain a lot of water and keep your blood plasma volume higher. So a lot of times, if you've been gone for a week and then you get back on the bike or you get back running, you feel kind of normal, but it just feels a little bit hard, and your heart rate is usually several beats higher than it would normally have been prior to the layoff. Usually that goes away after a few days. I find that the first 2 or 3 rides after, let's say, 4 or 7 days off, they feel kind of fine, but my heart rate's kind of high and it just feels like it's more work than it should be to do an otherwise, easy to moderate ride. So just expect that. Don't worry about it. Pay attention to how you're feeling and just go with what your body's capable of doing, and don't feel like you're holding yourself to a bar that had been established before you took that break. If the break is a lot longer, you will have lost maybe a substantial amount of fitness because you were waiting for your arm to heal after it got broken or something like that. I've had that experience, unfortunately. So it's really difficult if you have a power meter and a heart rate monitor and you're used to seeing a certain level of performance coming out of your body. And I think it's really good to kind of reassess and just recognize that you won't be where you were at, even though you might feel like you're almost there, or you should be able to do, X number of watts up whatever climb it is. A lot of times after a few rides, it might almost feel like you could be close to where you were at, but you quickly realize that that's not the case. If you try to go out and do, 3 by 15 minutes of threshold climbing efforts on your bike, you'll realize that you're way off of where you had been before. So I would just, reset your expectations. Set them low as you're first getting back into it. Pay attention to how you're feeling and use that as a gauge as much or more than you pay attention to your power numbers if you have a power meter. And the first several days, don't pay attention to your heart rate that much. Just accept and anticipate the fact that it will be higher than it was in the past. And, you can pay attention to it, but don't stress if it's 5 or 10 beats higher than it normally was. As long as you're paying attention to how you're feeling and going at a pace that feels reasonable for what you're trying to accomplish that day, don't worry about it. Whether it's, your heart rate normally is 140 and it is 150 or something like that. Don't worry about it as long as it feels like it's on target for what you're trying to accomplish that day. And as far as power goes, just ignore it. If you're used to seeing 200 watts or 300 watts or whatever it is for whatever you're doing at that moment in time, you can expect it to be 10 or 15% lower for the same amount of effort and the same heartbeat that you had before, like a month or two ago. Don't worry about that. That will quickly come back. It won't come back maybe as quickly as you'd want it, but recognizing how out of shape you might see yourself to be that first week or two back at training, you might be surprised in a month or two how much you've regained most or all of what you had before the layoff. So don't hold yourself to a bar that was established a month or two ago when you were training regularly. Just forget that. Just go with how you're feeling, go with your heart rate, pay attention to your power, but just accept the fact that all of your numbers will be a good bit lower than they had been before, and don't worry about it. Your body is very responsive, and whatever it is that you've done in the past to train to get to a certain level of fitness, your body can do it again, and it will probably do it faster than you did it the first time around. So don't worry about it. Just keep, chipping away at moving in the direction that you want to go in, and always be confident that if you eat well, you sleep well, you pay attention to, not getting sick or doing what you can to not get sick and take care of your body will take care of itself, and it will keep getting stronger as long as you have a good balance of giving it some stress and giving it enough recovery that it can keep progressing. Just always pay attention to how your body feels. I think more than power numbers or heart rate numbers or, your body weight or anything else that you could pay attention to, really just having a very fine-tuned sense of what your body feels like when you wake up in the morning, when you go out and train, when you're done with your training and you're taking in your recovery meals. I think if you can have a really sensitive feel for how your body's doing, that's the biggest asset that you can have as an athlete. So always pay attention to how you're feeling. And always remember, one of the most significant or one of the most crucial parts of any successful training program is going to be consistency. And whether you are training 5 or 6 days a week, 2 or 3 or 4 hours every day, if you're a cyclist, that might be a reasonable number for somebody that's really into it, or if you did an hour a day, 4 times a week, whatever it is that you've done in the past, you might not be ready to do that right off the bat when you're getting back into training. Do what is going to feel appropriate. Make sure that your training is challenging enough that you feel like you're getting a workout and that you're making progress, but don't destroy yourself by being overambitious. The more frequently you can train, if it's at an easy to moderate level, you'll quickly pick up more steam and build momentum in your training. Keep trickling in the stress, keep training every couple of days or every day if you have time for that, but keep it manageable so you're not setting yourself up for requiring 2 or 3 or 4 days to recover from whatever your last session was. So it's the same kind of principle as when you're training regularly, where maybe you do a hard workout, you do an easy ride, you do a hard workout, you do an easy ride, and then your big weekend and maybe 1 or 2 days off. Whatever it is that your normal routine is, you can do the same kind of thing, but just tone it down so that the amount of effort it requires and the amount of recovery that it requires after the training session is done is similar to what it has been in the past or what your body can handle. So, again, pay attention to how you're feeling and work with where your body is at that moment in time. And sometimes if you do find that you are getting more fatigued than you anticipated, be gracious with yourself and don't stress over it. If you did a 2-hour ride and it felt good, but then the next day you feel just totally wrecked, go ahead and go out and spin your legs out for half an hour, do something to just move most every day if you can make time for that. And, just adjust as you go along so that your training is, again, consistent and challenging enough that you're getting something out of it, but not so hard that you are, needing 3 or 4 or 5 days of recovery after any given training session. It's much better as you're building momentum to train a little bit, recover a little bit, train a little bit, recover a little bit, and so on, instead of train really hard and then recover for a week and then train really hard again and require another week of recovery. So, don't stress about it. Be confident that your body will take care of itself as long as you try to make reasonable choices and pay attention to how you're feeling, and just keep moving forward in the direction that you're trying to go in, and you'll be pleased, down the line that you picked up all the fitness that you had lost over the break. But, be gracious with yourself as you're getting back into it and just have fun, enjoying the process of seeing those gains the first several weeks that you come back to it. I hope that a few of those thoughts were somewhat interesting or helpful to you and maybe gave you some perspective that could help you reassess your strategy as you're getting back into training. And go ahead and subscribe to this channel if this type of content is interesting to you. Message me if you want me to go over a certain topic for you, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.